All right, so let the games begin now. And the very first thing that we're going to actually do is go through the product database and set the parameters. Now, like I touched on before, the important thing that you want to remember and keep in mind is you do want to switch it up. Don't let anybody tell you need to do this, you need to do that, or you have to set a minimum price or estimated sales or vice versa. I'm going to give you some specific examples of what I'm going to do, but the reality is it's really up to you and your imagination. So switch these around slightly, play with them, do product research on them, go back, switch them up a little bit, do product research on those, and then so on and so forth, and continue until you literally find your product. Now, when you find your product, you'll know because the competition will be relatively low, but all the competitors on that main keyword will have the lowest, will have a lot of sales. So you'll know that the competition is low and the sales velocity for that potential product, if you hop into that marketplace, is high, and you can cut a piece of that pie out. So I think the best way of actually doing this, which is literally what we're about to jump into in a second, will be to go through the process and identify a potential product for you. Now, I'm going to take that product obviously through product research to sourcing it in the next complete course, which will be a course in and of itself. So you can obviously get the sourcing down from overseas or wherever you're getting it. I'm going to take you through the entire process from identifying the profitable product. We're going to go through the process here in this course. Then we're going to source it. Then obviously we're going to optimize the listing. We'll focus on generating traffic through PPC and getting the initial reviews and so on and so forth. But those are later modules and later courses. But I really just want to kind of touch on that because I think it's important to go through the entire process and actually find a product. So we're going to find a product together here. So you get the pretty much the experience of identifying products that aren't good, kind of looking through Jungle Scout and kind of seeing what is what. And I think that will give you the best idea of kind of seeing a not a tutorial, but a what's the word I'm looking for here? Kind of like a case study. There we go. Like a case study of me actually going through Jungle Scout and finding a profitable product and giving you an example of a couple of different ones that might work versus a couple of ones that obviously won't, and we'll just move on from here. So jumping right in now, obviously I'm in the US marketplace. You can go ahead and select whatever marketplace you're in, or whatever marketplace you would like to sell in. So that's first and foremost. That will obviously let you identify products in that marketplace that have potential for you. So I'm not going to select all. I'm going to keep up clients as selected. And I believe when you first start, they are all selected. So I'm going to keep home improvement. I'm going to take Kindle store off because we're not looking for any Kindle ebooks, obviously. I'm going to take software off because we're not looking for any software. We're looking to source physical products from overseas. I'm going to take clothing, shoes, and jewelry off. Not that you need to, just because in my experience, I get a lot of clothes, I get a lot of shoes that kind of yield results down here when we go through it. And it will help kind of negate some of those and kind of keep it specific. I'm going to take cell phone and accessories off. That's just a personal preference. You don't have to do that. I'm going to take camera and photo off. That's also a personal preference. You do not have to do that. I prefer to stay away from camera and photo just because in my experience, a lot of the items in camera and photo are breakable. And that's something to keep in mind when you kind of want to think along the lines of returns and potential issues with your shipment. So if I'm ordering camera equipment from overseas and it's coming from potentially China or Russia or India or anywhere in the world, and it's shipping by air or freight regardless, it has the potential to be damaged if it's fragile and it's camera equipment. On top of that, when Amazon ships it to the customer, it has the potential to be, damaged when that's happening as well. So that's something that I want to keep in mind. So I just prefer to keep things as simple as possible. I'm trying to find a product that I can source that isn't breakable, that won't get a lot of returns. And actually, my second product that was really successful was actually a gift product. So it was tailored to, being a gift for people. It was kind of jokey and funny. And the reason for that was because if you think about it from the customer's perspective, if they're buying a gift, and I'm just kind of going through this to give you different ideas because I think that this is important. This is how e-commerce and salespeople think when they're starting their businesses. So I'm giving you good examples. But it was important to kind of identify a gift product, at least in my first experience. The reason for that was because when someone's buying a gift online, they're the ones buying it for someone else, correct? So they're going to give that gift to somebody else as a gift, and therefore the gift is in the possession of the other person. Therefore, and this was actually true in a lot of the cases, it really kind of dropped my returns down. That product rarely ever got returned. And the reason was because people were buying it as a gift and giving it away. Therefore, they didn't have the opportunity to then return it. So the only returns I really saw on that, which was huge for me and I loved, it kind of negates a lot of those returns that people, complain about. But it was huge because nobody ever really took the chance to return it. The only times that they returned it were when it was like damaged in shipment or so on and so forth. So those are two key things to keep in mind, breakable stuff, and obviously, whether or not you want to target gifts. Just remember that if somebody's an experienced Amazon seller, they're like, myself, or, if you are potentially, they're going to know these things too, and they're going to want to be going after products like this too. So you don't always want to go for, the cookie cutter product. It's important to kind of differentiate. So like I said, I'm going to uncheck camera and photo. I'm going to uncheck CDs and vinyl. I'm going to uncheck books, obviously, and you don't have to. I believe that beauty and personal care is ungated now. I'm just going to keep it unchecked just for the sake of that, because in my experience, there's a lot of products in this that kind of are categories as health products, and even though it's ungated now, and by ungated I mean some of the categories are gated, some of them are ungated, and I'm going to take you through that, don't worry. But it's really important to understand that a lot of these products still have stipulations on them from the FDA, from Amazon, and so on and so forth. So it's just easier to stay away from that. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and attach a document to this lecture, which I believe is lecture 4. So I'll attach a document in a Word file, which will give you a link to the restricted categories that you're not allowed to sell on Amazon. There's a lot of them that are gated. There's a lot of them that are ungated. But really, the best thing that you can do is kind of create your seller account and then just simply go into. So I'll take you to my one seller account, my retail arbitrage seller account really fast, and simply add a product from Seller Central. And when you add a product from Seller Central, I'll just give you an example really fast. Say you're on Jungle Scout and you identify a profitable product, or let's just pick one from Jungle Scout from the bottom. Let's take this one. We potentially identified this as a profitable product, let's say, just for example. Now I want to know if I can actually sell this. First thing I'm going to look for is, is the category that it's selling in gated? And like I said, that document attached to this lecture will be able to tell you all the gated categories. The second way that you're going to do it is take the ASIN, take it into your Seller Central once you have your Amazon seller account. And an Amazon seller account is free, guys. I do suggest upgrading to professional, especially if you're going to be sourcing products, but you don't have to do that until your products are almost ready to be in, obviously. So you're going to want to upgrade eventually, but you don't have to right away. And then you're simply going to paste the ASIN number in here, and you'll see that this is a perfect example of what you can't list. Now, some of them will be brand restricted, which means the category isn't necessarily restricted, but the brand is. So this is in tools and home improvement, which I don't believe is actually gated, but don't quote me on that. Like I said, just check the document that I attached to this lecture, and you'll be able to see all of that for yourself. So even if the product is not in a gated category, every once in a while you'll still notice that it says you're not allowed to sell it. You're not really necessarily too worried about that. What you are worried about is the gated categories, because this brand is just restricted potentially, not the actual category. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have any questions on that, just feel free to shoot me an email. Like I said, I'm always willing to help. It's not a big deal. Just wanted to touch on that, and that's pretty much the ones that I'm going to take off, and then we're just going to run through the process. And I'm actually going to go through some of the parameters over here. Now, so I'm going to keep standard and I'm going to undo oversize. The reason for me undoing oversize is because you're going to get more Amazon fees when you're actually, going through when your product is heavy, when it's oversized, quote unquote, and like it's bigger, so you'll get hit with a little bit more Amazon fees, and that's going to hurt your profit margin slightly. So there are great opportunities in oversized products if you want to actually go that route. Just understand that your margin might be a little bit lower, and you might need to get a higher, selling product. Another vital thing that you're going to need, and I'll actually throw this in the document too. So I'll attach the gated categories and the restricted categories, as well as the FBA calculator. So this is going to be vital, and I'm going to talk about this coming up. But the FBA calculator is a way that you can pretty much take any product and calculate what you can actually potentially make on that. So if you're, like I said, if you identify this as a potential product that you're going to want to source, and you're going to want to source this exact product pretty much as best you can, and then slap your own private label on it so it's a different product, what you're going to want to do then is you're going to want to either take the ASIN number or the title of the product, and you're going to want to search it in the FBA calculator right here. It's easier to just take the ASIN, but I'm just going to show you just for an example. Okay, so clearly took too much there, but I'm just going to take the ASIN just to show you. Copy, paste into here, and boom. And you'll see here that it identified that product. So obviously, if you're sourcing a product that's pretty much similar to this, you can assume that your FBA, fees, when you actually put it into Amazon Fulfillment by Amazon, they're going to be relatively similar, if not almost identical. So that's something that we'll go through in the future when we actually find one and we're looking through that. But something that you're going to want to keep in mind, like I said, the fulfillment, the link to the FBA calculator will be in the document as well, attached with the restricted categories. Now, I kind of just want to touch on really fast. Obviously, like I said, I'm going to keep standard. It's personal preference, but I suggest it. And I'm also going to click Fulfilled by Amazon only. Then we're going to go through the parameters, and I always like to put 200 results a page just so I'm not scrolling through pages. Now, here's the price, and the price is vital because a lot of people will say, anything from that $10 category, so I'm just going to throw it in here so you see, anything from about the $10 to $30 category is perfect and a perfect, price point for you to source from. The reason for that is because that's kind of a split-second decision on Amazon. A lot of people have their cards already in there. They have one-click settings, or, it's literally just add to cart and then click. So what happens with the $10 to $30 product potentially is 10 is just enough so that you're still making money if your fees are low, and 30 is just enough where it's not too expensive, where it's still a split-second decision and they don't really have to kind of think about it. Once you start to get over 30, and this is not, my specific anecdotal experience, but this is what, all the quote-unquote gurus teach, and I actually do agree with this, is, once you start getting over 30, the farther away you get from 30 and up, the less likely the person is just going to be to just pull the trigger right away and make the purchase. They're going to think about it a little bit more, and in sales, in my experience, especially with e-commerce and all the things that I do, the best thing that you can do to make sales and increase your conversion rates is really negate the barrier to entry. And what that means is make as little as and as few steps as possible from the customer to the purchase. So if you're, if this is all the way up to 40 and you're potentially getting a product that is, $40, you're adding a potential barrier to entry because they're going to want to think about it. Is this really smart? Should I actually spend $40 on this? Whereas the closer you get to 30 and below, it's really not that big of a deal to most buyers. Like I said, that's just personal preference. You can actually put it wherever you want. I'm going to actually look for a product that's like 15 to about 40. But like I said, I recommend about 10 to 30. Just keep in mind that a lot of people are doing that as well because that's what a lot of people suggest. So it's important to switch that up. Maybe if you want to go, another great trick just to kind of give you advice is, maybe go 11 to like 29. Because the majority of people are typing in 10 to 30 there, you can type in like 11 to 29 and really see different products, and it kind of specifies that down. So I'm going to go 15 to 40. That's just what I'm going to do here for this example while we find products. And like I said, you can really play around with that. Maybe you want to go 9 to 31, whatever it is. Now, the rank is something that you're going to want to potentially play around with, as well as the net profit per month. Now, keep in mind, all these are monthly, except like obviously reviews are total. Your rank is total. But so when you're doing bestseller rank, the only thing you're really going to want to do is max it. So like I would say max like 100,000 bestseller rank. I'm not going to actually throw this in there, but I'll keep it in there for now. And the reason for that is the lower your bestseller rank, the higher you're rated on Amazon in that category. So like I said, we'll pull up an example here. And if you scroll all the way down, and obviously I picked the longest one to scroll, the bestseller rank is in tools and home improvement. It's 1,665. That's pretty good. So I would be willing to bet that this person's selling a lot of units. 923 units a month with an average revenue of about 20,000. So that's why their bestseller rank is so good. The closer you get to about 100,000, obviously every category is slightly different, and this one is exactly tools and home improvement. But the closer you get to 100,000, the less sales you're going to have. And as you get over 100,000, you're really not seeing that many sales, at least in my experience. Now, that is a generalization. And, something like I said, just kind of take with a grain of salt, depending on the category. But I just like to keep it under 100,000. It will kind of negate a little bit of the products. Now, there are also, subcategories in the categories. That's a little bit beyond the scope of this actual lecture, but just something to keep in mind. Don't really worry too much about that. That will help your sales eventually, but not right now. Not going to worry about that. Now, I am spouting out a lot of information at you guys, so I really hope that you're obviously taking notes on this. Feel free to go back and play through these videos again. That way you can kind of get them, pause them, slow them down, whatever you want to do. Just make sure that you're getting all this information in. And like I always say, if you're willing, if you have a question, you need to email me or shoot me a message, feel free to do so. So I'm also, if you want to play with the weight a little bit, obviously you want to play with the max weight, and maybe you want to make sure that there's not that many sellers on that potential listing, so you're going to want to say 4. I'm not going to do that, but that's just something to keep in mind. So these are some slight ones I'm going to play with, and then also the rating is the 5-star rating. So I like to keep it above 3. Sometimes people go with like 3.5, or you can go like 3.8. So let's try 3.8, and we'll see what that kind of yields. So I'm going to hit search here, and then we're going to play around with it. And like I said, it's important to play around with different parameters. So if this doesn't work and we go through a bunch of products and we don't find a great one, obviously we'll go back, we'll switch it around a little bit. And that's something that you'll have to do, obviously, unless you get really, really, really lucky your first time. And that's something even the best Amazon people do. The most important, they're all very important, but the most important part of this and the process is obviously identifying the product and doing product research. So you don't want to speed through it. You want to make sure you have your right product. With that being said, I'm going to end this lecture. I'm going to hit search, and then we're going to jump down into all the products that it potentially yields in the next one and have a little bit of fun and go through some examples with you.